If you thought the session was about changing your spare bedroom into a home office, well, misunderstood, and we'll cover that in a little bit later. But stay with me here for a few seconds, and hopefully this will be of value to you. Changing the world's a big task to cover in the next 24 minutes, but I'm willing to give it a shot if you guys are. And I had to get overconfident here, and I promised Debbie not just one, but 3 ways to do it. So we'll see where that goes. And that's exactly how we think sometimes. If I'm going to go to the trouble to give back, I want to do something big. And I don't know about you, but I've had those thoughts of achieving those big goals and maybe standing up on the big stage, accepting the big award. Don't tell me some of you haven't had those same thoughts. If I could only get somebody to nominate me, though, that's been the problem. So we design these big plans to save the world, but we don't know how to get started. Or we hit roadblocks right out of the gate, and then we think, maybe I should wait till next year to get started. But I'm here to say, don't fall into that trap like I did. There's things that you can do to make a difference while you do your day job. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me tell you about Scott Harrison. In 2006, Scott was a nightclub promoter living in New York City, but his life wasn't going the way that he wanted it to. And he was thinking about his contribution to the world. I think we all do that from time to time. And so he did what most of us cannot do. He volunteered on a hospital ship in Liberia. And he was astonished by the amount of people that didn't have access to clean water. According to the World Health Organization, about 2 billion people don't have regular access to safe drinking water. They estimate that about 500,000 people will die each year from diseases caused by this. And here's the thing, most of them are young children. And in fact, 300,000 people under the age of 5, 300,000 kids will die from issues caused by poor sanitation and unsafe drinking water. This got intense pretty quickly, didn't it? But I can feel that the collective blood pressure elevating in the room a little bit, but stay with me. So Scott, a nightclub promoter, but he had a spare bedroom. And he decided to start something small that just provided some safe drinking water. And he launched something called Charity Water, and with just a few friends and a website, and of course his spare bedroom. Today, Charity Water has raised more than $740 million, and they provided clean drinking water to 16 million people in 29 countries. Anyone can make a difference with an idea and some resolve to see it through. And I believe, and I think that Scott would probably agree, that this isn't about making us feel good. It's not about making me happy. And I was thinking about this. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to understand our motivation for wanting to make a difference. And I've been fortunate to be in this line of work for almost 10 years, 20 years in the BPO industry, and I have to tell you that my problems didn't go away when I launched into this effort. In fact, they multiplied. But a few years ago, I had this realization that I'm working harder than ever. I've got more problems than I can shake a stick at. But the difference is that I'm loving every minute of it. And that's why I do this. This is where the magic happens for me. My son David, he moved out and went to college a few years ago, and I took the proper amount of time to grieve about being an empty nester. For me, that's about 45 minutes. And then I moved into his room. And yes, this is my desk, and yes, this is a folding conference table from Costco with a large mouse pad on it. And it works for me. We all need to make a living. We can't just pack a bag and join the Peace Corps. but thank goodness for those that can. And no one should carry the burden of saving the world when we have to save for our own kids' college. If you're here today, you know that there's things you can do that will make a difference. The question is, how are you going to use your experience and what you know to make that difference? All our lives, we've been told to focus on what we can do well, what you can make money at. And you build your nest egg because you want to leave something for your kids. But you've also earned the right to follow your passion. And I think we should all answer this question. Just what is it that I'm passionate about? And you have to be honest, because if you say money, then shame on you, because that's not a complete answer. Money's just a catalyst. It's a way to make things happen. So what are those things for you? For me, it's not mentorship that I'm passionate about. That's my business. It's just a tool, though. It enables me to achieve my goals. What inspires me is helping young people who didn't get the same chance in life that I did. Helping them get started in their career path, teaching them how to fish, and this is important, making sure there's some trout in their lake. That's what inspires me. And that's why I started Global Mentorship Initiative a few years ago with just 4 students in South Africa. 3 years later, we have almost 4,000 students in 92 countries, 3,000 mentors in 127 countries. And in fact, there's about 10 GMI mentors in this room today, including Neil Hirschman, who's hosting us from Kirkland and Ellis. And I just want to say, you know who you are. Raise your hand if you're a GMI mentor. There, look at that. Yeah, there's a lot of it today. Thank you for being a mentor. Thank you. We work with underserved college students around the world and refugees, and we teach them how to build a business network and how to be successful in their job search. And it's done through a short-term mentorship with someone just like you. If you have more questions, just ask one of those people that raised their hand. And you know, it's a remarkable thing when a Syrian refugee sends you a letter describing her 3 years in a Lebanese refugee camp. And then she tells you how something you did lifted her out of that camp, her and her family out of that camp, and helped her get her first job. Nargis is her name, and she's now a spokesperson for GMI. She's actually now living in London, and she's studying for her master's in healthcare. And I read these emails from students and from mentors, literally week after week. And here's the thing. GMI has worked with about 500 refugees in the past few years, but did you know that I have never set foot in a refugee camp? You really can do these things remotely, even from your spare bedroom. So let's dig in here. Let's narrow down the options. First, select a category that really gives you that lift when you think about it. And here's 12 groups, for example, but there's more to choose from. Then find the subcategory that's the best fit for you. For example, if it's animal welfare that you're interested in, what is it about animals that motivates you and that you can see a way to make an impact? I got a friend who trains rescue dogs as service animals. And that actually checks the box for 2 of these categories, and he's changing someone's life for the better in the process. Personally, I like to look for gaps where you see a need, but you don't see anybody who's addressing it. Maybe it's education for you. If you can give 2 hours a week, you can help a student go to college for a career in the high-tech field. But here's the thing. You have to focus on one subgroup, otherwise you may not ever get started. You have to narrow it down. You can teach. I don't mean algebra. How many of you have been a mentor before? That's a lot of folks. That's great. You can teach someone how to get a job. You can train someone on how to be their best in an interview. You can coach someone to alter their path in life so that they and their kids will have more opportunity. There's hundreds of programs to be a mentor. You can be a one-day mentor, you can be a one-year mentor. You can help a 7th grader in Johannesburg with his homework online. You can help a Ukrainian refugee in Poland with her interviewing skills so that she can get a job while she's there. And here's the thing about being a mentor. The value's not just for the mentee. As many of you know who've been in this program, it can change your life also. Beverly, meet Beverly. She's a middle school teacher in Prince William County, Virginia. She's been a GMI mentor 7 times in just 2 years. She works with students in Kingston, Jamaica. That's where she was born. And she's so dedicated to this program that I had to get in touch with her, and I met with her recently and to ask her why, and she told me she has personally grown in ways that she could not have imagined. It's changed her perspective, and it's changed her outlook on life. And there are 7 young women right now in Kingston, Jamaica, who are her legacy. And of course, you know what she told me. She does all this from, probably you can guess, her spare bedroom. Now, almost everyone here today is part of the BPO industry, and we have a lot in common in this room, myself included. I've been in BPO over 20 years. There's a growing movement to give opportunity, and you're going to hear a lot more about this tomorrow. And it's called impact sourcing. You should get involved because it really can make a difference, and it's something you can be proud about in your job. So let me tell you a very quick story. Back in 2013, a small group of BPOs got together with the Rockefeller Foundation, and I was lucky enough to be there. Dan Lane was there. Mauricio, you were there. Mauricio Velasquez. And that is where the second half of my life began. June 12th, 2013. How can we get this thing called impact sourcing to be a mainstream strategy? And by the way, this is a way where you can absolutely drive change while doing your day job. After the pandemic now, we have to think differently about what we can do and how the world's changed in the past 3 years. Well, we're all working remotely from almost every country in the world. That's how it's changed. And maybe there's a chance to bring some hope to people who are without hope for a job through impact sourcing. So if you're thinking right now about how you might be able to help, you know that there's others in your organization that are doing the same thing. Many times they just don't know how to get started, or they don't want to take this journey alone. And you can be the catalyst to make an impact, to ignite something meaningful doing this. We're all familiar with the global refugee crisis. These are ordinary people, just like you and I, except they have lost almost everything. But 2 things they brought with them to the refugee camp are their education and their experience. And one way to a better life for them is a job. One company can't solve this problem. But an industry that comes together to lead the way for other industries, that can make a big dent. It's a lot of risk for one company, but what about 30 companies partnering to create jobs for refugees? There are things that people in this room can do about this. And one way is to work with TENT. It's one of the IAOP partners. They connect refugees to jobs at companies like yours. So don't just share what you know, organize others to do the same thing. And here's a way that you can actually do that. You'll notice that up until now, I haven't mentioned giving financially to any type of a charity, but maybe you just can't get involved personally right now. And we're all in different phases, and it's true that there's a season for everything. So let's talk about Giving Circles for a moment. How many of you have heard about Giving Circles before? Okay, just a few of us. Okay, so you're gonna learn something new today. Okay, a Giving Circle is a group of people who come together to pool their resources to make a collective impact. When you combine your resources with others, you can make a huge impact, especially for smaller nonprofits or for causes that don't get a lot of attention. So here's just a few examples. The Women's Giving Alliance is a Florida-based giving circle. It was started back in 2001 with just a few women, but they now have over 430 participants in the program. Each member puts in about $1,100 a year, and they have awarded over $7 million in grants to support all kinds of projects for women and girls in the Southeast region. Here's another idea. The Action Africa Giving Circle was launched in 2019. They award grants to local community organizations in 5 African countries. They fund a group called Children Living with HIV, and they're located in Livingstone, Zambia. They provide support to these children, almost all of whom are orphans. There are 25 million people living today in Africa with HIV. And in sub-Saharan Africa, women and girls account for 2/3 of all new HIV infections. And 20% of those don't have access to antiretroviral medicines to help keep them healthy. The annual membership for this giving circle is just $300, but the impact they make by working collectively, you know that it saves lives. Another is the Latino Giving Circle Network in California. 500 people who donate about $1,000 a year. They support over 100 Latino-led nonprofits. And I have found a good resource. I don't have it on the slide here, unfortunately, but it shows over 2,000 giving circles that you can find that would fit the specific cause or action that you'd like to be part of. And while researching this, I learned a lot about giving circles myself. I found this tiny giving circle that makes it very difficult for the rest of us to compete. Mm-hmm. And it's called the Community Kitten Shower Giving Circle. This is a real thing. And for somebody in the nonprofit business, this is just unfair marketing. But it did give me a chance to put a kitten in today's presentation. Add some life here too. But if you want to have a greater impact around giving circles, think about this. What if everyone in this room started their own giving circle and they invited just 9 of their friends to join them? Together, collectively, you could send about $1 million every year to the causes that you care most about and have a say in the strategy for those causes. Or maybe someone here should organize the BPO industry giving circle, because I would join that one myself. This is much easier than setting a call center, we know that. So you're probably noticing maybe a little uneasily that I'm bringing up topics that you don't usually discuss in the workplace, especially not in a conference like this one. Humanity, suffering, even your impending demise, and we're going to get into your impending demise here in just a second. I know what it's like to spend the week or the year or your entire career with your head immersed in business scorecards and KPIs. I was in the call center industry for many, many years. And the truth is, that's a lot easier than thinking about human suffering or the ticking clock that is your personal human timeline. And by the way, this is me. Really brings it home, doesn't it, when you put it this way? You know, when I built this chart last month, it hit me squarely in the chest. The first thing I had to do was absorb it and then put aside my personal regret. How do I think about this? Because, you know, I can't change my past up at the top, but what am I going to do about my future? And by the way, we know that this is a best case scenario because none of us have a guarantee for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But I think that you'll be a richer person if you think about these things. And you'll accomplish a more fulfilling life if you think about and act on these things. So in closing, let me say that there are several reasons why we sometimes don't live up to our own expectations, especially about when it comes to giving back. Obligation can't be our only motive for doing something good, and guilt will not sustain follow through. And even if it did, you would be the most miserable person ever to spread hope and opportunity. This is about something greater than just ourselves. It's about achieving something we didn't know we had in us. You don't need to have it all figured out right now, because I certainly don't. But you should think about taking that first step. So today I'm sharing these ideas, not 3, Debbie, but 4 ways that you can change the world in your spare bedroom. Find your cause, share what you know, use what you have, and organize others towards your goals. You may have heard the story about a well-known maker of explosives who, years before his death, he had discovered his own obituary in the newspaper. The article was titled, "The Merchant of Death is Dead," and that sets a pretty low bar for evaluating one's life. It described a man who became wealthy through the invention of dynamite. The article went on to suggest that Alfred Nobel's legacy would be one of destruction and ruin. It was, of course, a misprint. It was his brother who died, and the newspaper had made a mistake. But Nobel was troubled and alarmed enough at this accurate portrayal of his life's work that he resolved to use his wealth and his influence to make a more positive legacy. So he drafted a new will, one that would establish the Nobel Prizes to recognize people for making a difference. And this story, it got me thinking, whether it's true or not, it really made an impact on me. And I know that Amazon has this method for product management called working backwards. They ask their teams to start at the end by drafting the press release for the final product. Visualize the end result before you start. And I think that can apply to people also. Write the press release for what you want to do as if you've already done it. And then make it your passion to live up to those words. Thank you all.